My name is Maya, and I work on Karas Station. I am 19 years old. I am not tall. I am not strong. Most people who look at me think I am an easy person to trouble. That is what this story is about. It is about the day 3 people learned that looks can be very wrong. Karas Station is a large trading post in deep space. Many different species live and work here. Some are tall, some are heavy. Some can lift things that would crush a human in 1 second. Next to them I look small and soft. I know this. I have always known this. But being small does not mean being weak in every way. I work in the maintenance section. My job is simple. I fix pipes. I check valves. I carry supplies from one place to another. It is not an exciting job, but I like it. I like knowing how things work. I like knowing every corner of this station, every pipe, every wire, every door that sticks a little when you open it. There is one place on the station called Deck 9. It used to be used for growing food, but the station stopped using it for that a few years ago. Now it is mostly empty. The lights are dim. The old cameras there stopped working a long time ago, and nobody ever fixed them. Everyone who works on this station knows this. It is common knowledge. If you want to do something quietly, Deck 9 is the place to do it. I did not think about this much. I walked through Deck 9 almost every day. It was part of my normal path to Bay 12, where I delivered supplies. On this day, I was carrying a crate of small plants. They were young plants, grown in water instead of soil, and they were going to be used to grow food somewhere else on the station. I was walking calmly, thinking about nothing important, when I noticed 3 people standing near a big pipe. They were from a species called the Dravith. Dravith are large. They are much bigger than humans, with thick arms and wide shoulders. They can lift heavy things without much effort. Next to them I looked like a child. I did not know these 3 well, but I recognized them. They worked near the loading docks. I had seen them before, usually laughing loudly or pushing smaller workers out of their way. Some people on the station were a little afraid of them. I had always tried to stay out of their path. But today, they were standing right where I needed to walk. The biggest one stepped forward. He had a wide smile that did not feel friendly at all. "Human," he said. His voice was deep and slow. "Give crate, give credits, no trouble." I stopped walking. I looked at him, then at the other 2. One was thinner, with a strange clicking laugh. The other stood a little behind, quiet, watching me carefully. I understood the situation right away. There were no cameras here. There were no other workers nearby. If something happened to me in this corridor, there would be no witnesses to say what really happened. They believed this made me an easy target. I want to explain something important here. I was not thinking about being brave. I was not thinking about winning. I was thinking clearly, the way you think when you need to solve a problem quickly. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest. We do not have thick skin or sharp claws. But there is one thing that many species underestimate about us. We do not stop thinking, even when we are scared. Our minds keep working. We look for small advantages, even in difficult moments. I set the crate down slowly. I raised my hands, as if I were agreeing to give up. "Okay," I said. My voice sounded calm, even to me. "Take it easy." The thin one laughed his clicking laugh. "Easy, yes, very easy." While I stood there with my hands raised, my mind was working fast. I knew this corridor better than anyone. I had fixed almost every pipe in it. I knew that the gravity here was lower than in most parts of the station, because this deck used to store large amounts of food and equipment, and lower gravity made that easier to manage. I knew there was a coolant valve near my feet that released cold gas quickly if it was turned the wrong way. I had fixed that exact valve 2 months earlier. The big one stepped closer to take the crate from my hands. As he moved, I used my foot to turn the valve. A burst of cold gas came out immediately, filling the corridor with thick white mist. It was loud and sudden, and in the dim light, it looked much more dramatic than it really was. The 3 of them were startled. In the lower gravity of this deck, even a small moment of surprise can throw off someone's balance, especially someone very tall and heavy. The big one stumbled. I moved quickly, using the moment to push gently against him in a way that used his own balance against him. He was much stronger than me, but strength does not help much when your balance is already gone, and you are standing in low gravity with cold mist around your feet. The thin one reached toward me, but his hand touched the cold mist, and the sudden temperature change made him pull back sharply, which caused him to lose his footing as well. None of this required great strength from me. It only required understanding the situation better than they did. The third one, the quiet one, finally reacted and reached toward a device on his belt, but I had a small stun baton clipped to my own belt the entire time, exactly where station safety rules required all maintenance workers to carry one. Nobody ever expected someone who looked as harmless as me to actually be prepared. I threw it toward him, aiming for his hand rather than his body. It struck his wrist, and his device fell to the floor, sliding away into the mist. Within a few seconds, all three of them were confused, off balance, and unsure of what had just happened. I stood near the valve, breathing heavily, not from fear, but simply because my body had used a lot of energy very quickly. The big one looked up at me from the floor. His face was not angry. It was confused. It was the look of someone realizing that something he believed about the world might not be true. "You," he said slowly, "are not easy." "No," I said, "I am not." I picked up my crate again. None of them tried to stop me this time. I walked calmly out of Deck 9 and went straight to report what had happened. Station security arrived quickly. They checked the corridor, reviewed the maintenance logs, and confirmed everything I said. It turned out this was not the first time these three had tried something like this in a quiet corner of the station. Other workers, from other species, had complained before, but without witnesses or evidence, nothing had been done. This time there was clear evidence: cold gas records, a triggered safety valve, and a security scan showing the exact sequence of events. The three of them were questioned and eventually removed from their jobs on the station. Later that day, I sat in the break room with a cup of tea that had gone cold in my hands. My hands were shaking slightly, not because I was still afraid, but because the body often reacts after danger has passed, even when the mind feels calm. I have learned that this is normal. Being calm during a difficult moment does not mean you feel nothing. It only means you focus on what needs to be done first and let your feelings catch up later. The station administrator, a tall and thoughtful being named Ostirin, came to speak with me. She had never been very confident about hiring humans for physical maintenance work. She often said, kindly but honestly, that humans seemed too fragile for tasks that involved heavy equipment or dangerous areas. "How did you know what to do?" she asked me. I thought about her question carefully before answering. "I did not know exactly what would happen," I said. "I just did not stop thinking. I used what I already knew about this station. I stayed calm enough to notice small details. That is all." She looked at me for a long moment. It was not a look of surprise, exactly. It was more like someone quietly changing their mind about something they had believed for a long time. "Humans," she said slowly, "are stranger than we expected." I smiled a little at that. We get that a lot. After that day, something changed on the station, though not in any dramatic way. Other workers began greeting me differently. Some asked me questions about how I stayed so calm. Others simply nodded with more respect than before. I did not become famous. I did not become a hero in any big way. But something quiet shifted in how people saw humans on this station. A few weeks later, I was asked to help train new maintenance workers, including some from other species. During one training session, a young Velkothi worker, small for her species but still much stronger than me, asked me a question that stayed in my mind for a long time. "Are all humans like you?" she asked, calm, "even when things go wrong?" I thought about her question honestly. "Not exactly," I said. "Some humans panic. Some make mistakes. We are not perfect, and we are not naturally strong compared to many species out here. But there is something in how humans are built, in our history, that makes many of us keep thinking, even in difficult moments. We have faced many hard situations throughout our history, long before we ever left our home planet. We learned, over a very long time, that giving up rarely helped us survive. So even when we are afraid, many of us keep looking for solutions instead of stopping." She thought about this for a while. "That is an interesting way to survive," she said. "Not through strength, but through never fully stopping." "That is one way to describe it," I said. Life on Karas Station returned to its normal rhythm after that. I still walked through Deck 9 almost every day. The cameras there were eventually repaired, months later, after station leadership finally approved the budget for it. I remember feeling a small sense of relief when I saw workers installing new cameras in that corridor. Not because I felt unsafe walking there, but because I liked knowing that no one else would have to face a difficult moment without any witnesses nearby. Sometimes, other workers asked me to tell the story of what happened that day. I always tried to tell it honestly, without making myself sound more heroic than I really was. I did not do anything extraordinary. I did not use great strength or special weapons. I simply used what I already knew, stayed calm, and made quick decisions using the tools and knowledge available to me. I think that is an important lesson, not just for humans but for anyone. Being underestimated is not always a bad thing. Sometimes, it gives you an advantage that others do not expect. People who assume you are weak often do not prepare for the possibility that you might not be. Karas Station is a large and busy place, filled with many different species, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Some are stronger than humans, some are faster, some can survive in conditions that would be impossible for us. But over time, I have learned that survival is not only about physical strength. It is also about awareness, patience, and the ability to keep thinking clearly, even when things become difficult. I do not think Dravith workers, or any other species on this station, will ever fully understand humans. I am not sure we fully understand ourselves, if I am honest. But I have learned that respect on a station like this is often earned through actions, not through appearances. People no longer assume I am an easy target, not because I look different now, but because they remember what happened that day in a quiet corridor with no cameras. Looking back, I do not think of that day as a moment of danger. I think of it as a moment of clarity. It reminded me that being underestimated is not a weakness. It can be a quiet strength, one that only reveals itself when it is truly needed. Life continues on Karas Station. New workers arrive, old workers leave. Cameras are repaired, and new corridors are built. But some lessons remain the same across every corner of this station, and perhaps across the entire galaxy. Do not judge someone only by their size or their species. Sometimes, the quietest and smallest person in the room is the one who has already thought 3 steps ahead of everyone else. That is what I learned that day, and it is a lesson I carry with me still, every time I walk through a quiet corridor with no cameras and no witnesses.